I am Patrick from Outrageous Insight, and here on a very, very hot day in the UK, with the sound of building work going on outside my house, with a drilling noise that reminds me of the world's worst hangover, I am joined by a very, very fascinating guest who is Philip Tavell. Now, Philip is the global brand director at Dynafit. Okay. Now, you might not have heard of Dynafit before. They are a brand with a deep heritage in ski touring, and I'm sure we'll get into talking more about Dynafit. But if you haven't heard about them, you should have heard about them because when Philip is involved, we know that this is a brand that is going places. Now, Philip is a former vice president of outdoor and ski at Helly Hansen, and he's also a professional athlete. So, again, one of those triple threats that makes me just look like an absolute slovenly 49-year-old man. Philip, good morning. How are you?
Thank you, Patrick, for this nice intro and hosting me. I'm very well, thank you. We are just in the waiting game of receiving our second son to the world. So, working from home, enjoying that, taking care of my wife. So, all good. Um, 4 months in, leading Dynafit. So, very excited about that as well. But mostly curious to be on your show, speaking about a little bit of a history and what's to come.
Yeah, I remember those. I remember that waiting game well before both of our kids, and it just feels like time goes doubly slow and doubly fast at the same time. It's kind of a crazy time. And that was just for me. I mean, for my wife, I can't imagine what it was like.
I know. I mean, for us, we're lucky. We don't have to bear the heavy load, and yeah, it's curiosity. You have to be flexible because you never know when it's going to happen. Most of the times, it happens during the nights, so I can still work a little bit during the days. But being here and being ready, I would not want to be traveling and miss out.
100%. Please rest assured, this is a family-friendly show, albeit one with the E for explicit on the Spotify podcasts, Philip. So if at any moment you need to leap out to do your duty, then please be aware that I'm extremely happy for you and your family, okay?
I will definitely do that. My athletic background had me say no to most social and private things due to my sport. So now I'm more of a yes sayer. So I will definitely run out and support the family if that's needed.
I love that. Now, Philip, I always start these interviews, and you've seen the questions in advance. You know, there's no trick questions. This is a sort of format show, as they call it. So the idea is to explore one story from start to finish. But I always start in the same place, which is to ask the guest, tell us a little bit about what you were like as a child. Give us a bit of an insight to the young Philip, if you would.
Absolutely. I thought about my childhood a lot, mainly because I'm second in row, small brother, having the luxury of being a little bit more exploring and challenging to my parents. I've had a very disciplined upbringing, meaning two entrepreneurial parents, a father that was very consequent in what he did and how he brought us up. That has taught me a lot. Um, but also a very free and open-minded childhood, meaning that I got to explore a lot of different things. I probably have tried or I have tried 25 different sports, but it took me until I was 17 to fall in love and pursue the cycling background that I have. Um, I mean, one thing that I've learned, or I think two things, but the most important I've learned was when I was 15. I had a summer job with my dad. He had to go away for 2 days. He told me to keep on building a roof. Um, and when I was 15, I was more curious to run around. This was at an amusement park. So when he got back after 2 days, I hadn't moved a single nail on that roof. And what struck me the most was how disappointed he was. Not that hadn't done enough work. It's more he couldn't trust me, and that I didn't understand the need to be able to work when the light is not shining on you, and that um, self discipline to put in the hard work, or even put in the work when your leader or your parents don't look at you. So that's what my father passed away unfortunately 3 years ago, and that was probably one of the most biggest learnings, apart from like having fun. And he I asked him when I was 18, when I started my cycling career, what like how should make money from cycling? It wasn't a very big sport in Sweden, and he gave me two advices. One, either you have to be the best in the world, because then people want to give you money or sponsor you, or you can get tattoos and color your hair, because then you will also get recognized. Um, I wasn't, I don't know, I I didn't feel like coloring my hair or getting tattoos, so I pursued and trying to become the best. So that's how it shaped me a lot, and having two parents as entrepreneurs also gives you the insight of what it takes to achieve something. It doesn't come from itself. You have like weekends, yes, it's called Saturday and Sundays, but sometimes you have to work on weekends when you're your own boss or you're having your own company. And I remember when my mother had a recruitment company, and she had to send out letters to partners, and the kids got to put stamps on the envelopes, and we got paid in Big Macs. Um, so that was I've had I would say a pretty disciplined and tough, meaning a lot of expectations, but it's definitely given me a lot of freedom and a lot of opportunities to play. So I'm very happy with where I've come from and the support that I've been given.
Mm. Thank you so much for sharing that, Philip. And I'm so sorry to hear about your dad. Just tell us, I always think it's so important. I was always brought up when you hear someone has died, you just say their name. So just tell us what was he called, and just tell us one thing about what he was like.
His name was Bo, B-O. He was extremely opportunistic and curious. He's owned multiple different companies, and he was, until the day I had the opportunity to sleep next to him when he passed away during that night. So he was all the way up until last day. He was really frugal, um, in the sense that that's the night or the day before he passed away, he told his partner that she used too much toilet paper to wipe his chin. So all the way up to his last breath, he was frugal but also curious and still happy. He never really complained. So I take a lot of with both parents actually, but now when talking about the father, taking away or taking with me this opportunistic and curiosity in life, curious to live, wake up happy, and do something enjoyable.
Thank you so much for remembering him. And I just separate but related. I just listened to a really really fascinating podcast by a guy called Shane Parrish, and it was all about the founder of Hyundai. And one thing I didn't realize was that Hyundai, maybe you already know this, Philip. So if you do, then stop me. But is the Korean for modern? That's what the word actually means. And apparently, he'd grown up in a part of North Korea that was so agrarian and so poor that when the family's sort of harvest was failing, they were eating tree bark at times. And then he went on to become one of the 10th richest people. And honestly, this story, I'll link to it in the show notes, is unbelievable. It is incredible. Like, he had so many times where he was just pushed back. And one of the phrases, which I sort of think we might touch on today, is that he apparently sort of said was, "There are no failures, there are only trials." And I want you to remember that as we go into your story. So let me now come to the next question, Philip, which is, we're about to talk about a story from your life and a decision that changed everything. But could you tell me a little bit about the status quo, the moment before you made your decision, as it were?
Status quo for me gives me rashes. For me, status quo is something that you've basically decided that you no longer want to fight and you don't no longer want to evolve or curiosity to evolve. I mean, between when I was 13 and 15, I barely made it to soccer practice twice a week. But then I entered a mountain bike race with a friend from school. And I've always been like this adventurous outdoor feeling that I liked. So I joined this race and I entered the completely wrong class. Didn't know what the classes were like meant. So and I started like full flat out. I passed the finish line after one lap. Then I realized, holy crap, I have 5 more laps to go. Then when I just gradually started to go backwards, and the winner passed me, lapped me twice, and they had torn down the finish line when I got to the finish line. So I was dead last. Um, and then why so why did I continue? Well, my two friends that I drove up to this race with, they didn't even finish. So in the car back home, I was somewhat the hero. Like I finished the race even if I was dead last. And my brother was a professional soccer player. So somehow I wanted to do my own thing, a small brother. And then I figured this is fun, even though it's painful and I was last. This is something that I want to try and pursue. And from that day, I I really tried to look at like how do I make a living? Because I didn't want to do it half-ass. I didn't want to work and then bike a little bit. Later in life, I realized that it's nice to have something on the side as well to just distract you. But in the beginning, it was just how do I make it so I don't have to work on the side and then cycle a little bit. Um, so that was because my brother made money from soccer. Back then, I didn't realize that soccer is a big sport. Cycling at the time was a very small sport. So I should have probably put the same effort into tennis or soccer to become rich, but it wasn't really about making money. It was really just about challenging myself and how do I evolve? How do I go from number 15 on the or on the result list up to number 1? So continue, and that progress is really enjoyable.
Mhm.
Um, it n- it takes time, but it was a little bit faster in sports versus what I realized when I started working in a business career. That some decisions takes a very long time to see the fruit of. But that's basically how my athletic background started. Dead last, and then next race I entered the right group or the right level, and then I was second. And then I realized, wow, maybe I have some kind of talent. I was by no means a talented cyclist, but I had enough talent to push through and add training to my talent background.
So you made this decision to evolve, to go out of your comfort zone, Philip, to try and make this your full-time paid gig, your full-time paid job. How did you do it?
If we go back to comfort zone and how comfortable cycling is, um, biking 5 hours in plus minus zero is no fun. But the result of the work you put in is is very fun, or it can be very fun. So that was really the and also when you put your mind to something, just have to put some pain aside because you can't like it's going to be painful, but okay, but you've decided to do this, then just don't allow the pain to distract you from where you want to go. But I was like if you paint, I was a pain in the ass in the beginning because I called every single person that I felt could help me or could support my growth. I called a cyclist that was better than I. Can I train with you? And they didn't even know who I was. I called races where you had to have a invite if I could be invited. It's like, who are you? Oh, I think I can. perform. Okay, you have to pay for everything. Okay, I'll take the train up to Stockholm and race, and then take the train back. I called a sponsor, a company for 8 months. I tried to reach the CEO. Uh, I never reached him until after 8 months, but during that period, I got really friendly with his assistant. Um, and then one day he answered, and I said, like, present myself, and then we had a 3-year partnership. So I said, if you want to be the best, like, how do you learn fast enough? And yeah, I moved abroad for about 5 years, because Sweden is a lovely country, but we don't have a very big cycling culture. So that was also a blow to my face, and humbleness when I moved to Switzerland the first time. And I went out on the training ride and got back, and I looked at my speedometer. Back then, you didn't have Garmin and all these fancy equipments. And looked at my speedometer. I did 3 hours, but I only managed 50 k's. Back home on the flat Sweden, I did 90 k's, and I was so, like, humbled, and I was like, "Holy, I'm slow." But then you have mountains, and then I entered my first race, and I was like eighth or something like that. It's like, this is painful. But that's how you, that's, or not how you, I would say, that's how I grew, putting me into positions and situations which was uncomfortable, but also necessary. Uh, and professional athletes is a very, it's not all the time healthy, and it's sometimes you have to make sacrifices, even though at the time for me it was not sacrifice to move abroad. That was just something that I had to do to become better. um, the day when sac you felt the sacrifices, that was when I started to think about if there's something else in life. But yeah, asking, being pain in the ass, being pushy. um,
Sounds a lot like entrepreneurialism, Philip, you know?
It is. Like, I was my own. I mean, this is. I even wrote my uni thesis around personal branding, and the person of that personal branding was Philip Tavell. I thought that was easier for me to write about something that I could do while I was traveling, and I didn't necessarily need to have too much um, teamwork at the time, because I was out traveling most of the times. And I was curious to, because in Sweden there wasn't that many people that made a living out of cycling. I managed to do it, so I was curious to understand, why did I manage to get sponsors and partners, and what did they value? And that was very interesting also to bring with me into my business life, because it's not so dissimilar from building a brand versus building your personal brand.
So, I mean, you had this great story, you know, you'd come last. You'd then basically just shown incredible grit and determination, you know, maybe even a bit of flow thrown in there as well, Philip. Like, you were basically like saying, whatever it takes, I'm going to make this happen, make this work. You'd been through some hurdles and faced some setbacks. What was the moment at which you started to think, or you thought the sort of athletic side of your life was going to be replaced with, or a dual track with business? And what was that moment like? How did that come about?
The first time I experienced it was when I got injured living in Switzerland. I realized how quickly your athletic career can come to an end. Then I actually signed up to, or I even didn't sign up. I just figured out where I could go to some university classes. I sat in the back of the room because I wasn't registered, to do something else. And one guy asked me, like, "Oh, so what are you studying?" "Oh, I'm basically not studying. I'm just here to listen."
So you were like Ferris
"What?"
Bueller, but like sort of Ferris Bueller, but like a reverse one. Instead of him not going to classes, you just sort of appeared in the back of classes.
Yeah, I mean, I did some like business classes, or like listened in, and I didn't understand much, but it was interesting to see. That was the first time I realized that I need to, or I want to study, or I need to study a little bit. Then when I realized that I had said no to a lot of my friends' weddings or big birthdays or trips, and also when I realized that I will never become top 3 in the world. Then I realized, okay, I know what's it gonna take to try and do it. I've tried to do it for 9 years. Um, there must be other things in life than shaving your legs and running around in Lycra. So that was when I decided, okay, let's pursue a business career. So when I finished my university studies, I called the Swedish GM of Red Bull at the time because they were a partner of mine. And I just asked him, do you happen to have a job that my personality or my background could be helpful in? Um, and he persuaded the headquarter that he wanted to give me a key account manager role in sales within Red Bull. So that's how I started my business with one person taking a chance and seeing the which I've realized as well. Sports background does have a good fit into business life in terms of, as you said, grit, perseverance, not giving up, um, always curious to evolve and progress. So that was, I didn't understand it at the time, but today it's definitely something that I cherish a lot.
Yeah, I love that, and I think, like, I was sort of reflecting as I was listening to you, Philip. You know, it's here in the UK and maybe a bit in Sweden. You know, my mum is Swedish as well. We spoke about that before, but like, um, there's perhaps a slightly different sort of level of self promotion in Britain and in Sweden than one might see, for example, in America. So, like in in Britain, anybody starts to get successful, the first thing everyone in Britain says is, "You're getting too big for your boots. Who the f do you think you are? You're a cocky so and so." You know, a bit like when a sports person just drafts past you on the left or the right. You're like, "Oh my god, I hate that person because they're just better than me. I want to now beat them." Okay, so we've now agreed we're both competitive, Philip, which is what I like with guests. But also, there's a sort of a quietness and a sort of lack of self promotion, perhaps, that is more in the UK and perhaps in Swedish character than in the American character. And I know that you ended up after Red Bull, you then ended up going to Helly Hansen and working in North America. And I'd love to hear a little bit about that sort of, you know, culture clash is my words, not yours, but you can understand where I'm going with that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I've always said that if Scandinavian or even European brands could uh, inherit 10% of the American pride, we would be very successful. Um, I think I mean, my experience in the US was more, it, it came across as a authentic um, pride, not bragging, but more stating the obvious and being very um, proud of what we've done and explain it in a authentic way. And also when it became obvious for buyers that it was true, it wasn't just a fancy tagline or something that we made up. That was really what um, I would say probably could have taken a shorter period of time if we would have been a little bit more American. Um, but it definitely helped to be authentic, Scandinavian as well, humble and polite. Um, and yeah, I've enjoyed it a lot to build what Helly has achieved in the US. In the beginning, I thought it would be the ketchup effect much quicker. It took about 10 years to get to where they are now. But I was we Helly at the time were in ski business, which is still a very small niche. About 4% of the U.S. population skis. So being there, being a 150 or 2027, they celebrate their 150th anniversary. So being able to tell that authentic story, you don't really need to brag about it because it's just the the brand is almost the same age as some states or some important happenings in the US. So that was also very like fun to talk about the age and that heritage.
And it's almost that sort of compound effect of just being able to stay in the game as well, isn't it? Actually, once you start to get above 10 years, that's a milestone. Once you get above 20 years, 50 years, 100 years, those things speak for themselves. And I was seeing the other day that there are some Japanese businesses that have been in just like continuous operation for like hundreds of years. It's absolutely mind blowing to me how one builds something that sort of lasts that long. You
And
told me
that you're
what.
able to, and
Go on.
that, sorry,
No.
that you're also able to evolve and keep relevant. Like being old is not a bragging right per se. You need to make sure that your brand adapts and stay relevant without losing the heritage and losing the authenticity of the brand and who you are. But you always need to evolve and adapt to the market's situation or consumers. And that's something that I'm very proud of what Helly has achieved over the last decade or 15 years that continue to grow, uh, but not lost track of who they are.
Folks, if you just heard a phone notification go off, you might be thinking, as I am, is Philip's partner about to have their child? So I'm now going to just pause for a minute for Philip to just check his mobile phone to just check that
Thank
his
you.
that his. And while we do that, just to say thank you so much for listening to Light the Fuse. It's a huge pleasure to have you here. It's been so fascinating to chat to Philip. Philip, are we okay?
We're okay. We
Great.
can come.
It's sort of like when one's doing an interview and then basically the fire alarm goes off. But this is just so much more important. It's sort of like bringing new life into the world. So don't worry about it. I'm delighted. It sort of gives it like a reality. It gives it an authenticity here, Philip. So really, really appreciate it. That thing you were saying about being able to sort of, you know, be, be able to get 10% of that American pride, you were telling me that when you started at Helly Hansen in that category, again, they were dead last in market share. And then you were like, do we have to be dead last? Just give us a little pen portrait about how what I'm already seeing is a beautifully competitive streak came out here, Philip, and you just were like, we're not going to be dead last for long.
Yeah, I really fancy result lists because it's a very honest way of like, as yeah, right here and now, this is where you are. What do you want to do about it? And when I joined Helly, we were brand ranked number 15 in the US in terms of ski specialty. So still a niche area, but ski apparel. And that was also the first time when we like leaned on more data and being able to gather the whole team and the company around, okay, this is where we are now. Like, what's the future? What can the future hold? And I have to admit that when I looked at that list and I saw some of the brands, I was like, wow, how are we like? Are we going to be able to compete against them? There were some specialty ski brands. There were some big global like North Face. Like, oh, how is this going to even play out, and how long it will take? But then you will also notice I really like celebrating, um, even small wins. And if you can see your market share is like moving in the right direction, I'm the first one to celebrate that small move. Because the worst thing can happen is that you celebrate another time when you move further up. So that was the first time we started track, and basically every single season we moved one or two ranks up that ladder, and that was really because a very hard focus, like on the US market. They had the opportunity, and then we gave them the opportunity to really focus on ski. So the whole sales organization, the marketing was all centered and focused around ski. And then 23, from a technical ski apparel brand, Helly was number one on that list. Um, and that was an amazing achievement that the company and everyone involved had achieved. Um, it, I can't say that was a spoken and a written down goal, but if you can be number one, why don't you try to be number one? But you need to also be aware that it's going to take a lot of hard work. It's easy to put something on paper. And as I said, I spent, I had probably, or I had countless of account meetings and marketing meetings, press trips. And I really enjoyed sitting, talking to the customers. And in the beginning, they just said, nice product, nice brand, but we don't really need you in the stores. We have all the other brands. Then the second time over, yeah, nice products, good price points, good technologies, but we don't really need you. And then we started like, but do you remember what you said last year that you didn't like this? We changed it. And that was the first time when buyers like, wow, you actually listen and act on it. That felt that started some momentum in terms of product. And then the marketing team just continued showing up and being present where the consumers were. And that's why I over or underestimated the time it would take to build something. But once we did, it's just, yeah, it's amazing to see. Um, and that's part, that is one big reason why I wanted to get out of my comfort zone again and joining Dynafit because I believe that we have a very authentic and a strong like performance mountain brand with a true back to that you said American versus European or Scandinavian. There's a true like innovation and authenticity there, which I think we can scale and make sure that we stay relevant and interacting with the consumers. So that's my next step to see how far we can go with Dynafit.
I absolutely love that, Philip. And, you know, I think I know the answer to this question, but there's nothing worse than an interviewer that either spends the entire interview, an interview host just talking the whole time. So I'm not going to answer your own question for you, but if you reflect back on your story that you've kindly shared with us and your career to date, what do you think is the main, most important, most hard won lesson that you have had from your career, Philip? What do you think it is? How would you summarize that if you can?
A couple of points. I've had fun. That is for me extremely important. Because if you don't have fun, you will never have the grit to put in the work needed to endure all the ups and downs. I've worked with people that have had this same willingness to grow, so a growth slash winning mindset, and always being willing to see what's around the corner, what's next to come. That curiosity to innovate more or to change to a new market situation. So I would say the uh, the, the colleagues and the surrounding of willingness to evolve and grow, and also having a lot of fun in between. I mean, some of the most enjoyable trips I've had are press trips, like meeting writers and colleagues and ski together or ski tours together or just being outdoors and showing why we are in this business.
Mm.
Um, yeah, growth mindset is something that that's what I've learned the most. You need to have that willingness to evolve and be curious to see how you can. Because if you don't evolve and grow, you will be left behind.
Mhm.
In sports as well, you have to adapt to circumstances, to a new track, or to your competition that are better than you. How do you then change, but without moving from one side of the pendulum to the next? within one season, but still always adapting.
And it sounds like it's also a willingness to suffer. It's a willingness to defy the laws of physics, which are that, gravity is literally dragging us down to the ground. Entropy is like moving everything towards chaos. It's like all of these sort of parts of the natural world are also making all these things harder as well, Philip.
Yep, absolutely. I mean, adapting that or accepting that the world is changing and that n- you will always be faced with new challenges. Um, so 2026 will go down in the books to be a year of change and definitely out of my comfort zone. Having a second child is the most important. Then moving to a new country, a new language, a new culture, a new role, a new owner structure, being Dynafit being owned by the overall group, a family-owned group. Um, so this is going to be an adventure. 2026 is when we survive this, we have learned a lot, and we will be very yeah, ready for basically whatever it feels like. Not whatever, but it's going to be a very big learning process for the whole family. Our son goes
Absolutely.
to German slash Italian speaking kindergarten. My wife doing all these Duolingo to practice German. So this is a test of how much out of your comfort zone is doable. Um,
And I love the reframe that you've given me today, Philip. This idea of grit as fun. Maybe you didn't quite say it like that, but actually, it's like the fact that they need to be in a tension, in a dynamic. And if you don't have the fun element, then you can't survive the grit. But if you don't have the grit, then it can't be fun. And I just love the idea of the two of them being two halves of a molecule, as it were.
yeah, that is they go together, and I mean, I take an example from my childhood. Uh, the whole family loved skiing, but we lived in Skåne, which is southern part of Sweden. Basically, no snow, no mountains. So, I mean, my father he drove us down. That's a 13-hour drive. Thursday evening, he drove through the night, slept for a couple hours. We skied Friday, Saturday, Sunday. We drove home during the night. He dropped us off at school, and then he went to work. And if you don't enjoy what you're doing, you will never survive those kind of adventures.
And it's also about the sacrifices that we make as parents as well, isn't
Ab-
it?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, before I had kids and we had kids as a family, I um, I mean, today what I do is more built on what do I create for the future, for the family, and obviously for myself as well, but definitely being more um, cautious of what we do. So this change for the future, joining Dynafit and to lead that company, it's um, it's definitely a big choice, but I think for the family as well, it's going to be really adventurous. Uh, yeah, adventure. I know that people and kids living abroad, they learn in a different way. So when he get back home, whenever that is, to Norway, he will have so many other things that he's learned that's going to be valuable for him.
Philip, I absolutely love that. And it's nearly the end of our time together. It's gone too quickly, and there's not been a small child arrive during the podcast, which was a shame
Very
because
good.
they would have been they would have been a first light the fuse baby, Philip. First sponsored athlete.
Sorry to disappoint you.
No, there's no. You could never disappoint me, Philip. You know that. I promised I'd take care of you, and I think I've fulfilled my brand promise. Now, just
Absolutely.
two final questions, Philip, and then we will finish. But please don't log off because otherwise all our beautiful work will be lost. So, when you think about this podcast, like I'm going to start to ask guests this new question, like, who would you like to see share their story? And as I mentioned to you, this isn't necessarily about saying, oh, we're going to necessarily get this person on the podcast. Or maybe we will. Maybe I just need more of a growth mindset, Philip, and maybe they will come. I put it out into the universe and they arrive. That would be brilliant. But if there was one person that has really had a significant, inspiring impact on your life that you'd like to hear from, who would that person be, Philip?
I will stay within the business because I would say my parents have made the biggest contribution and giving the most inspiration. But if I stay within business, it would be Yvonne from Patagonia. And as you said, like growth mindset, um, like the focus and the passion and the joy that he has had, or what it looks like building Patagonia, and also focus. I mean, Patagonia doesn't do everything. Like from a product offering, they've said no to a lot of things as well. To being able to stay that focused and not being too or the temptation to do everything, because people have probably come up to him and said, why don't we do this? Because the brand strength is so good. So that focus and willingness to say no to some things as well is definitely inspiring to me.
Thank you so, so much. And Philip, before we end, and then I will sing you a song out, as I do for every guest. No, don't worry, I won't actually sing you a song. We only actually do that on our training courses where we actually do play a song out for people, and they all look like absolutely terrified, Philip. They're like, oh my God, why is there suddenly a disco on this training? But what is your ask for the audience? You know, you've shared so generously your story, and I thank you so honestly for that. But like, if you had an ask for the audience, either about business or about life or about just interrelations between people, like what would be your sort of ask to the audience of Light the Fuse, Philip?
I would definitely encourage people to stay curious, um, and challenge themselves to not live in the comfort zone or status quo. Yes, change is scary, but once you've done it a couple of times, it becomes less and less scary. And I mean, the worst part, like our move to Bolzano and starting working with Dynafit, the worst thing that can happen is that we don't like it and we move back to Norway. So it's not yes, it's a little bit bigger when you have a family, but you can still do those things and like challenge yourself and be out of your comfort zone, even though now it's two people that needs to agree on doing those things. So I'm very happy and I'm very grateful that my wife have allowed me to do this. I mean, fulfill a little bit more my growth path, but curious and willingness to change and push yourself a little bit.
Philip, it has been a huge pleasure. I remember when we first connected on a post about somebody getting hired for some ski role in Norway, and now here we are. We've had a full 45 minutes together. I'm really really grateful. Is there anything final you'd like to say, or shall I have the last word as is my sort of? I know how
I'll give
competitive we both are, Philip.
I give last word to you. I'm just very thankful and thank you very much for hosting me.
Thank you. No, it's been a huge, huge pleasure, and thank you for talking about your family and about your father. And you know, I think when we do talk about people that have gone, it keeps them alive as well. So you know, just thank you so much for sharing so honestly about that. That's a really sort of delicate gift there and a very important gift there. So thank you so much, Philip. I really, really appreciate it.
Thank you,
Right.
Walter.
Folks, thank you so much for listening. We've got some, as well as Philip's incredible interview that we've just had, we've got some really fascinating talks coming up, interviews coming up with leaders at Vans, at North Face, and at other outdoor and active brands. So please stay tuned to Light the Fuse. If you've enjoyed this podcast, please feel free to leave a review, 1 star to 5 stars. But if you don't leave me a 5 star review, you will basically break my heart. So please leave a 5 star review. Philip, thank you again, and goodbye.